What's up, beautiful people? CLG Lifestyle here, coming at you with another video, getting these videos out as much as possible, as quick as the inspiration come, as quick as I'll be pulling up my phone to come on and share. And so if you guys have not checked out my previous publications, you can do so by going to my website at clglifestyle.com. You can also visit my YouTube channel or my Facebook channel, where you'll see all my recent publications. So words of wisdom, right? I talked about this in another video recently, right? The importance of reconnecting with God. Now, I am not here to convince you to believe anything that I believe. I'm not here to convince you or to persuade you to serve the God that I serve. The God that I serve don't need anyone to, is not begging anyone to serve him, because he is that God, right? And so all I can do is share just the wisdom that the God I serve gives me, and share it with you, with the hopes that, one, I fulfill my responsibility as a disciple, but also that the people who desire subconsciously or consciously, truth, right, that they receive what it is that I'm saying, because truth recognize truth. As they say, real recognize real, truth recognize truth. And so it's something deep in your spirit when someone is saying something that you may have never heard before, but it just resonates deep within you, right? That's an aspect of truth, recognizing truth, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter how we may feel, right, religion, denomination, perspectives, if we can agree foundationally that we came from love, if God is love and we came from love, then I believe that there are mechanisms that are foundationally within every human being that, yes, we're different. Yes, we are peculiar, I believe, right? This is also my philosophical beliefs and spiritual beliefs, that we are peculiar, that we are individuals, that we are expressions of God's infinite ability to create, meaning that God doesn't create one person twice, right? So, but yet still we have just certain qualities about us that or should I say imprints that God places in us to establish us as his children, right? So in the human realm, that would be a DNA, right? Parents have kids, and how this person is the father is through a paternity test, right? Now, I don't really know the diagnostics or the scientific method and formulas that go to establishing paternity, but it's always been proven for the most part to be 99.9% accurate, right? So there leaves an opportunity for error, right? Because human error, right? But most times it's accurate, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to God and his children. Our DNA is definitely spiritual, right? There's a spiritual DNA within us that have us recognize or have us there's a spiritual DNA within us that establishes us as God's children. And I'm talking about from a born-again believer perspective, right? I want to be very clear, about the perspective that I'm speaking from, so that there's no confusion or anything like that. Like I said before, disclaimer, I'm not trying to convince you to serve the God that I serve. The God that I serve, knowing him is enough, in my opinion, in my belief, to serve him and to want to get to know him. And so, like I said, I'm just being a vessel and a source of light in a world that can be very dark, right? And again, to be, the answers to your prayers, your subconscious prayers, and to, reveal to you the things that I believe that has given me peace. And so, if you believe that you're a child of God, right, there's just certain things that, you will no longer deal with when it comes to mindset, when it comes to, belief systems, when it comes to just your attitude, right? When you believe that you are made in the image and likeness of God, that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, that you are validated by God, that God, the God of all gods, have chosen you, right? He has affirmed you and has qualified you. There's no need at this point, right, to people please, right? There would be no purpose in people pleasing or trying to convince someone or person that you're worthy. This relates to environments where, you may be in a workplace, or you may be even in, within family members, right? We always hear the terminology black sheep, or, the person who was mistreated. In fact, The Bible reveals people, right? People in our past, whether it was Joseph or David, people who were, or Gideon, right? People who were not only misrepresented by their family members intentionally because of jealousy and envy, but also ostracized, right? Because of the fact and the truth that they were chosen, whether they knew it or not, right? And so we have to I should say, relate these experiences, because God preserved his word for us to have answers to our questions, for us to have, reasons or reasoning behind the reasons or the things people do. Let me rephrase that. The Word of God gives us the opportunity to get understanding and insight about the world, right? And about, why people do the things that they do, right? And so in the case of Joseph and David, right? These were people who, again, were not even valued by their parents, by their family members. Joseph, in the case, was his siblings. David, in the case, was his father and his siblings, right? And so many of you who are watching this right now, you may have been looked down upon, or, dismissed by your family, by your father, by your mother, by your brother, okay, by your aunts, your cousins, right? They may have just treated you like dog crap, right? Because whatever reasons, right? I can talk spiritually about it, but I'll just say for whatever reasons, right? Maybe it was something about you. Maybe you were different. Maybe you didn't fit in because you didn't subscribe to cultural and societal expectations when it comes to likes and dislikes, right? You were just you, and you didn't know how to be anything else, okay? And so this has transcended into adulthood, where, where it's like bullies never really go away, right? Ignorance never really goes away. It takes different forms, right? Especially as an adult, there are, kids living in adult bodies, right? There are people who are of a mature age, but they've not developed mentally, spiritually, emotionally. They're still stuck in 6th grade, right? And so we have to deal with these types of attitudes and these types of behaviors and habits in the workplace, at home, in your community, wherever you're dealing with people. And so that shouldn't stop you from exercising the freedom as a child of God to live in love, to live in peace, to live in forgiveness, to just be free. That being a child of God gives you, or knowing that you're a child of God gives you the advantage of exercising, right? I do believe that, living in the freedom of God, regardless of the persecution that arises, is an advantage, right? And so you have to see that such, because the more you understand and welcome and embody the grace of God through freedom, right, to be who you are, and when I say who you are, who God created you to be, right? Because there are different perspectives and beliefs and mindsets and expectations when it comes to how people think you should be, how they think you should act, how they think you should dress, walk, talk, where they think you should work, what they think you should learn, how they think you should represent yourself, right? So we're dealing with all these mindsets and these belief systems that opposes, God's will for your life. At the end of the day, only God can define definitively, right, who you are, right? And only how you're going to fulfill that entirely is through your relationship with God, okay? And you have to come into your own personal relationship with God, establish it, cultivate it, and value it above all else, because that is where your strength will be when you're rising to the top, when you're rising to whatever it is and wherever it is that God has predestined for you to get to, okay? So that's the message, that's the word. Your freedom, there's freedom in God, and there's also protection and strength. When you're living the way God desires for you to live, right? Even in the case of Joseph, right? His brothers, they tried to kill him because of jealousy and envy, right? So even with their plot to destroy his life, right? God was already in the picture, right? God already, according to the word, he's, the beginning and the end. So God already foresaw or foreseen, what these people would do to try to stop the plans, which was ultimately God's plans, right? People try to take things personal, but if you're on assignment for God, right, then, there's really nothing that can stop you unless you allow people to stop you, right? Because once you've taken up the mantle and the call of God, you're doing, your life is no longer yours, right? You're fulfilling something bigger than yourself. And so the enemy uses people to come in the way of God's plans, right? And sooner or later they find out, listen, we should not have done that. But the goal for them is to stop you from moving forward. The goal for them is to stop you from manifesting and becoming and embodying. And so if you understand how relentless darkness is and the kingdom of darkness is, you'll understand how, in contrast, you need to be just as relentless and even more when it comes to the promises of God for your life and who he says you are. Okay? So that is only how the enemy has power to oppress you and to have you, slink back into bondage, is by relentlessly oppressing, or relentlessly using your ignorance against you. All right. And so the more we know about who we are in God, the more we can stand in that truth and become unapologetic and uncompromising about it, knowing that if there's anything that we do wrong, that our Heavenly Father, will correct us, lovingly correct us, and set us straight, right? And will use the people whom He, who would resonate with us, right? Just like I'm resonating with you. That is the will of God, opening your heart and empowering my speech to get to His people, because I'm called to a certain people. I'm called to a certain group. I'm not called to everybody, right? And this is another aspect of your identity. If you feel that you're called to everybody, that can be an issue, right? Because what's going to happen is that you're going to try to fit and mold yourself to fit the expectations of everyone, and we're all different, like I said before, right? There are foundational things about us that makes us unison, but when it comes to our identity, our perspectives, our life experiences, and the things that God is using to call us to Him or to grow in Him is going to be different, right? And so you have to understand that God is abundant. He's an abundant God. He can use one person for one person. He doesn't have to use one person for a million. God can use one person for one person to help that person grow in his wisdom, to help that person become and be restored back to Him, right? So these are all truths, right? Be it unto you according to your belief. With that being said, CLG Lifestyle, if you're interested in a coaching session, email me, hit me up. My email is info@clglifestyle.com. Send me a message. We can work on something and get you your healing before restoration. With that being said, beautiful people, CLG Lifestyle signing out. Talk to you guys soon. Love y'all. Truly.